Well, a growing crisis affecting students across the country. Access to accommodation and videos have been circulating on social media showing students at various institutions of higher learning struggling to find a place to stay. And while the exact reasons remain unclear, whether it's financial exclusion, a lack of housing, or just administrative delays, the reality is that many students are currently facing uncertainty as the academic year begins. And to further unpack this, let's now extend a very warm welcome to Nape Senong, mobilization strategist at Youth Capital. Nape, very good afternoon to you and welcome to the show. So today, quite, worrying are those images, right, that have been emerging of students without accommodation at the mercy of the city's elements. What do you say to this as Youth Capital?
Very worrying scenes indeed, and thank you so much for shining a light on the challenges that the young people are facing trying to get into university and higher education. So at Youth Capital, we believe that the current challenges that are there between students and landlords are a reflection of some of the challenges that are in the National Student Financial Scheme, NSFAS, because part of these things is things that have been coming up in a campaign that we launched earlier this year called Fix NSFAS Now. In our hashtag Fix NSFAS Now campaign, we launched a survey that was aimed at quantifying the real cost of these inefficiencies and mismanagement of issues that affect students. And one of the issues that came up from students is that the late payments and the delays in payments and the lack of accountability between NSFAS and the landlords leave students really in the middle. The relationship between landlords and NSFAS is currently strained, and the people that are suffering is students. So this, we think, that is a reflection of some of the challenges that are there with the financial aid scheme. And it's really, really shocking, I would say, because 10 years ago in Fees Must Fall, when I was a student, some of these challenges around accommodation and such were brought to the fore in terms of students having to top up sometimes, in terms of students not being fully funded for their funding, for their housing needs. It's really, really concerning, I would say.
Mm-hmm. You know, Nape, so knowing that as Youth Capital, you are quite at the forefront of voting for and advocating for policy change, pertaining to all youth challenges from unemployment to education. So what is the best possible solution with our current funding of disadvantaged students? The president said yesterday during his State of the Nation address that government will be creating an education funding model for the missing middle. But as you've just rightly alluded to, this missing middle was back in the protests for those Fees Must Fall protests. So he spoke about building entities like TVET colleges and special focus education. But these plans, we have long heard about them and nothing has since been done to improve in the sector.
So our response towards the SONA has been that lots of promises, but no concrete, plans or actions that are being put forward. And as you say, some of these issues have been persistent since 10 years ago. This year is 10 years since Fees Must Fall, and some of these issues are still persistent. And we really think that the not, forefront or adequately respond to some of the challenges that are there at NSFAS, because it's been a year since NSFAS board was dissolved and the CEO resigned. We're going to a year rather, because that was in April last year, but in 2 months, it'll be, 3 or 2 months, it'll be April again, and the same challenges are still there. And when you look at those images of the students, it's quite worrying. And relating to unemployment, numbers tell us that young people who go through tertiary education or university are more likely to find work later. And with the latest household expenditure survey, it showed us that households that have individuals that have gone to university are spending much more on food and are spending much more on than households that have not gone through university. So this kind of challenges in our education system, they're related to some of the challenges that we face around unemployment, particularly youth unemployment, and also poverty levels.
It's quite shocking, Nap. I'm looking at some of your statistics there. 1 in 2 grade 1s haven't made it to matric without a certification. They struggle to re-engage with the education system or find employment. 24% of young people who live in households without an employed adult and lack connections to the world. So maybe while we're still talking on these policy influences, I mean, there has been renewed calls, Nape, to return the responsibility. We're talking about funding now in terms of the student housing payments, to return it to university management. But speaking to some student representatives during, the start of this academic year, they have actually been opposed to this, citing equal opportunism on both the institutions and, as you pointed out earlier, the landlord side. So education alone is exorbitantly expensive. Students cannot afford to be worrying about employment, about studies, and about accommodation, least to speak.
So that's why we say at Youth Capital that the president, in the plans that he proposed yesterday in the SONA, there should be accountability, and the accountability for us looks like a commitment of money towards some of these challenges. We do know in the 2024 budget that we are in a budget of austerity, where a lot of social spending towards education and other things has been cut. So looking forward into the budget, we really are hoping that there will be some kind of commitment in the medium and the long term in terms of money, because it really is appalling that we are where we are. And I think also with the issues that have been raised by student leaders, it also raises quite an important thing, that the young people's voices actually have to be involved in terms of driving the solutions to their challenges. Because if we just sit from the top and say that these are the solutions that students need, you might find that those are not those solutions that they need. So we need to facilitate ways to bring young people's voices into solving the challenges that they are currently facing.
And very quickly, Nape, then, are there any means that you as youth, of course, Capital, are assisting these destitute students until, of course, the current issues, whether be it NSFAS payment issues, have been settled?
So as Youth Capital, what we are doing at the moment, working together with student leaders, SRC. I just came out of a very good meeting with the SRC of the University of Pretoria. We are running our survey, of course, the one that I mentioned is pinned on all of our social media pages, to get a more quantitative kind of students that will help us in terms of our advocacy pushes. And also what we're doing is we are running town hall sessions in different parts of the country with students, so that we create a space for them to discuss and share some of their challenges, and we can use some of these insights to drive the policy shifts, and also just fix NSFAS, to try to push this campaign of getting NSFAS to be fixed, appoint the board, and really restore the integrity of NSFAS organizationally and institutionally as the scheme. So that's what we are doing at the moment. We're in solidarity with students in terms of their challenges, and we're trying to use some of these tools that we have, research tools that we have at our disposal, to try to push forward.
What I find interesting, Nape, very quickly, is the fact that, students, why are students not being included in the very same issues where they can actually find solutions to these challenges? Do you know why?
I think it's a general thing of how young people in different, it's not just in education, in different kind of spaces are being engaged with. A lot of times when young people are being engaged, it's in a very tokenistic kind of way, the tick box exercise, and say, oh, we've engaged young people, therefore, but you find that the engagement and is not meaningful. Our country is a very young country that's made up of mostly young people. And it's still very concerning that young people are not trusted. I don't know if it's a trust element or we just don't have the mechanisms. We still need to develop the mechanisms to engage young people, but we just are not engaging young people meaningfully in a way that they can shape solutions to the challenges that they face.
It is time that those young people are included in being a part of the solutions for their challenges. That is Nape Senong, the mobilization strategist at Youth Capital.